Welcome, everyone, to a bonus episode of the Distil-Nation NZ podcast. My name is Tom. I've stumbled over that. How are you, Cameron?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
And I'm sad and excited to say that this is the final bit of content episode for Season 2 of Distil-Nation NZ.
It's the end of Season 2, but only so that we can have an incredible start to Season 3.
Yeah. Fair, you know. It is winter right now. We're freezing in here in the distillery, but
in fairness, that's not the only reason, Tom.
No, yeah. So I'm expecting our second child come the start of September, and I need a little bit of a break. It's not like I don't have enough work already across 3 jobs plus a podcast. So we're gonna take a quick break. And we're regrouping. We've got ideas. We've got episodes coming. Nothing. Stuff hasn't stopped. You know.
No, it's not going to stop. In fact, we already have some episodes in the bank. Some of them have been more. Let's just say there's at least one history-focused episode that I have put a fair bit of research into. But we've also met with some distillers. We are in the process of teeing up some more interviews. So it's going to mean, one, we are going to be back before the end of the year. Now, last year, one of my favourites was when we did our end-of-year gift guide.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we can safely say this is called an on-air production meeting. We haven't actually discussed any of this. We're just talking it out right now. But I'm thinking something similar. It's fair to say last year's end-of-year gift guide was 100% whiskey focused.
Yep.
And this year we now have more of an opportunity, experience, open bottles.
Yeah.
We can be looking at some other great gift ideas,
we'll do
suggestions.
That at the Juniper Collective, and we'll get it out earlier this year. Yeah.
Indeed,
yeah,
for sure. But we do have some distillers lined up, some in the bank. So even though we aren't going to be releasing episodes for a couple of months, we are still working behind the scenes so that we can end the year with a bang and then launch into, oh my goodness, 2025 with some awesome stuff so that you can keep listening to this podcast, which is so much fun. It's fun to make. It's a lot of fun to make, but we can't deny that it is also work.
Yeah, and to be fair, we do not get paid to do this.
I mean, look, the sponsors at Herrick Creek and the Juniper Collective are very generous.
With their paws.
But that's as far as it goes.
That's about it, yeah. So we thought we'd end this bonus episode with something that I had sort of talked about doing recently, because we've got...
You made an offhand comment to me, and I said, sure, let's make it happen.
Because I have batch 1 of Moss, and you have batch 2.
And then, yes, I had my... Shorelines and Sirloin coastal tasting, and so I got my batch 2 bottle of Moss, and you had a batch 1 from Moss, and you were like, oh, I wonder what the differences are between them. And I said, well,
what a whiskey geek thing to say.
Exactly. So this is our chance to geek out and try 2 different batches of the same whiskey.
From Waiheke. I don't know if we said that, but yeah, Waiheke's Moss. We've talked about it before on the podcast.
We have indeed, so you can go back and listen to our chat with Colin. Tom, why doesn't yours have a cap on it?
So we were getting ready to record today, and you know what happened? And you know what? It's entirely my fault. I cannot blame anything else except for me. I put it next to the box of production gear, and as I was getting ready, did you mix this up?
No, that's 1. And that's 2.
Okay. Perfect. And as I'm getting ready, I knocked the box, and I even said to myself, I said, don't put it there, Tom. You're going to hit that bottle off, and wouldn't you hate to just see that bottle break? Sure enough, I knocked the box immediately after that, without any hesitation. I hadn't left anywhere. Knock it off. Oh, fuck. And all I'm thinking is, oh, gosh, there goes the whole bottle. Luckily... It only smashed the cap, which was plastic and broke. And, I mean, there's a couple cracks in my thing up here, but there's no glass broken. And I had a small bit of whiskey escape to the angels on the floor, but I've still got half a bottle. So it was shit. But
do we come back to the great cork versus cap debate? Or?
Well, yeah. What would a cork have done? Maybe a cork might have held up. But
who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, I've poured one out for all our brethren out there, inadvertently, but I'm happy to have done it. So to all the actual spirits out there,
what
enjoy
I'm
a
going
dram
to say
of moss.
straight off the bat is that the noses are different. So the one in your left hand is 1 from batch 1.
They are, yeah.
And that is something. This is so nerdy to be doing, but it's also the kind of thing that I really get off on. Like, yeah. What are the differences?
I think I prefer number 2, the new batch. It's not huge, like a difference, but I feel like it's a bit thicker and creamier in batch 2.
I think 1 is a bit saltier.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more of that sea spray coming across in 1.
And 2's more of your
2.
sort of creamier, thicker sort of expression.
So 2 on the back, distilled 2018, bottled 2023, and that was distilled 2017, bottled 2022. So, I mean...
What? Oh, wow.
Age-wise,
Yeah.
So we're not even dealing with a real difference there.
So it's only a year difference between the two, which makes sense.
American Oak STR, ex-bourbon,
Yep,
and
same.
versus same. So, I mean, they're trying to control as many of the variables as is possible to control.
But like, if I picked up number 2, I wouldn't necessarily know it was different from number 1. It's definitely still smells and tastes like moss.
It's only because we are being utter nerds sitting here with, the glass same thing next to each other.
I do think number 2 just has a bit more depth to it. Not just within the smoke, because it is a peated one, and lightly peated at that. But
yeah, lightly peated.
It's just thicker, creamier, more sort of grain to it. Very clean, both of them, though. Eh? This is probably one of my favorite New Zealand whiskies, Moss. I think Moss is really, one of my favorites. Top 3.
And it's certainly, I have to say, at the event that I hosted, which was a sellout, it had 36 people in its Smoke and Barrel, so it was such a good night.
It was great,
such
yeah. We
a
had
good
fun.
night. But feedback from people on the night, this was certainly, I want to say, one of the top 5 that I was pouring. No. I mean, it was one of the top 5, but no, this was certainly one, because it kind of ticked all those boxes of a noticeable coastal influence, which was the theme of what I was going for. It's not like the one that we ended on, which was a heavily peated, which really did kind of split the room.
Yep.
This was one that, for people who love peated whiskey, it's got a good, it's got some good smoke there. For people who aren't normally fans of peated whiskey, they said, yep, I noticed that it was peated, but it wasn't so strong, overpowering, dominant that it put them off. This was a real crowd pleaser, and so
This is something everyone can do at home. If you ever get another batch of something, just stick both up, and you'll notice the difference if you've got 2 of them. So this is the sort of fun sort of thing you can do if whether it's the same whiskey from different batches, or if you've got 2 different whiskeys. It's just kind of fun when you put them up next to each other. It makes it easier to smell the differences between things. So,
and if you're looking to, because oh my goodness, like I started getting really interested in whiskey at a time when Facebook had really only just launched to the public, where, previously it had only been available to a select
I
group
remember
of...
when this was all Orange Grove.
Yeah, I know how it sounds. And so there was much trial and error that I did on my own, or, you know, when I discovered that friends were into whiskey. And one of the best things that we did was when I discovered a bunch of co-workers who were also into whiskey, and we just turned up and everybody brought a different bottle or two as an opportunity to try something different. And that was, I was like, well, how do you start writing tasting notes? Because I'm reading the tasting notes on the backs of these bottles of scotch, and there's so much that I don't relate to. Does that mean that I'm doing it wrong? And no, not necessarily. If you read the tasting notes on the back, and just because you don't identify with them doesn't mean that you're drinking it wrong or you're not doing it right or whatever, because everything is so subjective and linked back to you. But when I was sitting down and trying to write something for myself, it was actually when I poured 2 glasses and was sitting down, and I was able to say, okay, well, this one's saltier than this one, and this one's fruitier than this one, and this one, this one, I can taste this one for much longer after I've sipped it than I do this one. When I was able to play one off against the other, that helped me get to a point where I could then start writing and start kind of creating something of my own. So if you're not sure where to start, this is a great place.
And I'll add as well, when I got into whiskey, when I moved here, I started a YouTube channel called Terrible Whiskey Reviews, which confused people because they thought I was saying the whiskey was terrible, and I was actually just being terrible at reviewing them. But it helped me just to sort of have a spot to really sit down and categorize and like catalog what was going on. And I used to do it in a way where I would sit down, I'd grab the whiskey and I'd try and say like, oh, you know, I smell this and that, and then I'd pull up the website at the same time afterwards and say like, okay, here's all their tasting notes. Oh, did I taste that fresh grass note? You know, now that I've said it, I guess I smell it, but I didn't get it before, you know, and it just, I don't know, if you sit down and just have a play with it, like, you're never wrong. Like, you know, it's somebody's subjective taste buds, and you taste what you taste. If you taste whiskey, that's great. If you taste, you know, dirt with worm mushed into it, you know, in the Andalusian climate, then fantastic. You know, it's up to you.
I have to tell this one story, and it's, if you have been to one of my events before, there is a very good chance that you've heard this anecdote because I've shared it far and wide. So when I was touring Scotland, and it was me, my now wife, and her parents, 4 of us in a car driving around, and we saw the sign for a very famous distillery that I shall not name here, but very famous if you happen to like green triangular bottles. And we did the tour. And because the vast majority of people there were on organised bus tours, and we just hired a car, we were just doing it by ourselves. And so I thought, okay, if I just sit at the table, so you do the tour of the distillery, then you do a wee tasting afterwards, and I thought, if I just don't get up, maybe he'll pour a wee bit extra. Which he did. And I levelled with him and I said, mate, at that point I just graduated from university, and I had been a tour guide at the Otago Museum. Shout out to all my also early 2000s Otago Museum colleagues.
I remember old Dunedin.
Yeah, we bonded over a shared distrust of management and a shared love of whiskey. But I said to him, like, mate, I've been a tour guide, so I kind of know the deal. You're doing the same tour day in, day out. How do you keep it real? How do you keep yourself invested? And he kind of looked around and went, so we set a challenge for everybody doing tours on a particular day to pick a tasting note that we would then call out, and basically it was whoever could do it and not get called out that they were full of shit would win. And he said it got to the point where they knew that they had to stop because he's wearing the kilt, he's got the name badge, he's in the uniform. And I mean, look, I 100% found this myself, that I was in the uniform, you know, the tour guide uniform, and I got to the point where, you know, I'd done the same tour 3 times already that day, and I'm going in for the 4th, and I was just like, what can I say to these tourists and get away with? And I know that, you know, you're dressed in the position of authority, you can say whatever you like. And he said... It was when he was standing there with you know, a Glen can of this particular green triangular bottled whiskey, and was like, "All right, and you'll get notes of ketchup. You'll get real strong ketchup notes from this one." And he looked across at everybody sitting at the tables who were all nodding along, going, "Yeah, no, totally, yeah, no, I get that, I get that." And he said at that point they were like, We've got to stop now. We can't keep doing this. So there is something to be said for the power of suggestion.
Yep.
But there's also something to be said for, like, just have fun and don't take it too seriously.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Go. I mean, if you do smell ketchup, fantastic. You know, like that's your palate and that's what you smell. You're not wrong. Like, you know, but if someone told you to smell ketchup, you might be wrong. You know,
if they are saying it to win a bet among the other tour guides at the large distillery, then maybe.
Yeah. Have fun, people.
And on that note, we will see you in a couple of months. Stay tuned to socials, because I will try and maybe find some extended bits or other videos to post and other bits and pieces so that our socials stay active. But yeah, in a couple of months we'll come back for a new big bang to the end of the year, an update on the events and everything, some new distiller interviews, a revamped gift guide.
Yep.
And then yeah, we will relaunch proper in 2025.
Cheers, Cameron.
Cheers.
Cheers, listeners.